Good morning. This is Sociology of Family or Sociology of Marriage and Family. I'd like to introduce you to our first video lecture. Welcome. I want to introduce our book first. This is Families as They Really Are, our textbook. You can see mine is pretty well read and used. And so we'll be discussing one article today and one fact sheet today. So this book is very mindful about how academics are teaching and learning. So one of the first topics that we cover is how to be critical of research and how to identify academic research or unbiased research from biased or value-laden research. And they make a very concerted effort to include as much diversity as they possibly can in this book. So that allows us to talk about families from a very diverse and inclusive way in this class, which is wonderful. For this book and for the way that I teach, the discussion and activities that I use, I try to engage you as actively as possible, even online. I know that's a little bit challenging. And we're also going to be trying to link to the real world. So let's get started. So the first article that we're reading is 1049 Reasons Why It's Hard to Know When a Fact is a Fact. And this is written by Andrew Sherlin. He's kind of one of the big wigs in sociology of family. So what he talks about is how you need to turn a critical eye towards research and basically anything that you read through the news, through the media, social media, and even in academia. So how do we do that? Well, when we look at any type of article, we want to ask ourselves 5 basic questions. Who's producing that information? So who's producing that fact? Are they promoting a point of view? Do they have an agenda? That's huge, because if you know they have an agenda, you know that that is going to be their bias. Now, they may be trying to be neutral, but they may not be trying to be neutral. Where did the fact originate? Sometimes facts will spread around even through the news and academia and common knowledge, and we don't know where it came from, which means that we don't know if it's actually accurate. Just because lots of people have said it doesn't make it true. What do we know about the relationship between the facts and correlating facts or trends? Is there anything missing? So sometimes you hear information and you're like, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't make sense or correlate with everything else I've heard on the topic. So where did that information come from, right? Where did it originate? Is somebody promoting a point of view? Who's producing that fact? That will kind of give you some of that additional information. And why is it important to critically consider the facts that are presented in research? The most valuable reason to do so is so that you know when you are being tricked, even with academic articles, and we'll talk about an example of that. So one of the examples that we have is called familyfacts.org. It comes from this place called the Heritage Foundation. And what they do is they promote the value that marriage is best for children. And they actually use scientific research articles to support their claims. And we probably heard their talking point, their value agenda promoted. And that's because what they're trying to say is that marriage is best for children and religion improves family outcomes. To some extent, that's actually true. But what's happening with organizations like the Heritage Foundation is that while they promote the facts that support their value and their agenda, they like to leave out research that contradicts and complicates their agenda. So they actually pulled that information from the Journal of Family and Marriage 1998 article. And this is an article that Sherlin, Sociology of Family, wrote. And he said that's true. That's what, his article does say. However, they conveniently left out the fact that children of divorced parents have a higher risk of emotional problems, they included that part, but they left out emotional problems are almost always visible before the parents are divorced, meaning that whether parents divorce or stay together, uh, those children tend to have a higher risk of emotional problems. So what had happened was that what was included and what's excluded is reflecting the values of the persons or the organizations that are presenting the research. This happens all the time. It's more likely to happen in the news, even more likely to happen with private organizations or think tanks, and even more likely to happen with social media. So social media is probably the least trustworthy place to get your information. Even if they're presenting it as real facts, oftentimes they even make up the data and the so-called academic articles that they're pulling from. So let's talk about a little bit about statistics. I know you're like probably rolling your eyes going, I thought I was taking a family class. Remember, we have to always start with methods because even if it's sociology of family, sociology of gender, or sociology of social problems, they all need to be based in science when they're academic. Um, so let's start with just kind of some reminders about statistics that you probably know but might not remember because you could have taken this years ago. So what's the difference between a causality or causal relationship and a correlation? And oftentimes we get these things confused um, because people will hear the word correlation. These two things are correlated, and they'll say, okay, A causes B. So I give you a picture example here. So a dry, hot, sunny summer will cause a sunburn. We know that, and may even cause you to purchase ice cream. But while ice cream sales and sunburns are highly correlated, meaning those two statistics go up at the same time and go down at the same time, ice cream does not cause sunburns, and sunburns does not cause ice cream. So how could you then explain this same concept to a friend who's not in the course? That's how you know that you would know it. So we need to know how explanations are connected and that those connections are often much more complicated than we make them out to be, especially in the news or in social media. I would like you to be much more critical consumers of academic research, news, articles, and especially social media.